Hmm. So, hi Dipanwita. Welcome to Live Interactions with Global Change Makers. It is an honor to have you with us today with our team IICSR. I would like to introduce all the viewers. Dipanwita is a woman leader, top 101 women leaders globally in the space of CSR and sustainability, and she studied travel tourism, political science, and from there she has come up to the journey of being the regional director for head corporate responsibility and sustainability of a multinational company known as Cargill Foods. Welcome on our show, Dipanwita.
Thank you, Harsha. An honor to be here. Yeah, and thank you for that kind introduction as well. Thanks. Hello, everybody.
So, Dipanwita, we would like to understand more about your journey. What took you into sustainability, CSR, and how was the transition?
Yeah, I think all of us go through some kind of an evolution curve in life, don't we? And I don't think I'm any different from that. So I was born and raised in the northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh, where my parents used to work for the conservator of forests. And I think this entire thing of the word conservation was a part of the lingo on the dining table conversation because of how I grew up as a child, right? So it was always there. But then cut to went to study political science, and then did travel and tourism, and then also did e-commerce. And when I landed up in the corporate world, I actually started off with some consulting with a consulting organization, and then came to Cargill and did brand marketing for a while, and strategic business development and project management. And while I was doing that, and especially when I came to Cargill, there was this entire piece around volunteering, which was very, very big in our organization. And it's been almost 13 and a half years now that I have been with the organization. So one thing led to another, and I used to keep telling that time to the then corporate affairs director of Cargill in India that the work that you do is really cool. I mean, someday I'd like to contribute in a major way more than what I do just as a volunteer. This work is so amazing, and Harsha, I think I have always believed in the word serendipity. They say that sometimes it just happens that if you speak it out loud, and if you really want to do something, it happens at the right time, at the right place. Sometimes it just happened to be there. And at that point in time, the country was implementing this CSR law. That was back in 2013, 2014, right? And we were actively looking out as an organization to set up a corporate responsibility organization. We didn't have a very central corporate responsibility organization within the country. We are a multinational organization, so a lot of the work that we used to do in the country at that point in time used to be run by our corporation, where we used to have this funding coming through to India from our headquarters. But then the change in law did say that we had to look at it differently, right? We had to also look at how we do that at a national level and stuff like that. And then we knew that we had to set it up. And since I used to keep saying that I'd like to do this, and the organization just asked me, "Oh, now that you have been wanting to do that and we're looking for somebody, would you like to lead this for the country?" And I mean, I had to jump at this, right? And I did. That was back in 2014. And so I pretty much, and then we used to call it the Nourishing India program for Cargill in India. And I pretty much set it up for the country, like did the strategy piece, set up the entire lay of the land. What did we want to really focus on? Was food security, community development, and environment stewardship is something that we were looking at that point in time. and then did that for 2 years. And then the organization said to me that might be time for you to level up and set it up for the entire Asia Pacific region. So CARGILL, as you would probably most of you would know, we are a food and agriculture organization, also sort of, we heavily in the space of commodities, and we do food ingredients, we do feed, we do ocean transportation. So the work that we do is from farm to fork, and that's the model. And we have farmers as the central piece of our stakeholders, and the geographies that we navigate across Asia Pacific is across 16 countries, and out of that we have about 8 or 9 key markets. So that was a daunting proposition to begin with, but then just as exciting. That was back in 2016, I think. And then again, it was time for me to kind of just go to the deep end of the pool and keep breathing. I set up the entire team, do the strategy for the region, and yeah, here I am. And we are a phenomenal global team of practitioners, and I know that I have a great team that I work with, and without them, it would not be possible. So the work that we do with our programs, our partnerships, the stakeholder engagement, the work that we do with our policy team, and also reaching out to policymakers to be able to align with how the governments are looking at some of these very important conversations, happen because I have a very, very competent and very driven team on the ground. And especially COVID has taught us to effectively and efficiently work as a virtual team. And I'm very grateful to that. I mean, that's probably one of the way that we have also learned to be there for each other, and still be effective and just do what we're supposed to do in a very, very efficient way. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, that's how it has been. And personally, it has been such a trajectory of learning, most importantly, the learning that you have and the unlearning that you have through the course of the time, and the people you meet and the stakeholders that you deal with, and the relationships and the connectivity that you create. I think those are very, very valuable, and those are very important pieces in the journey of your life. And it is not only about the professional part of it, but it also plays a big role in your personal growth as well. So yeah, that's how it has been so far. Thank you. Harsha, you're probably
So
on
at a
mute.
very young age, you've achieved so much in life. At the helm of affairs, I should say, are you. So at this stage, you must be dealing with stakeholders at different levels, and
Mm-hmm.
from NGOs to government authorities to bureaucrats to many other people. So, what are the and even the end beneficiaries? So, what are the CSR communication challenges that you have faced, and what are the lessons that you've learned from each?
Very interesting question, Harsha. It's again a continuum, right? And we have learned through the curve. So I think being part of a multinational organization, there are a few tenets that we have to be very, very aware of. So for example, at CARGILL, our purpose of existence in this world, and we have been there for 156 years now, is to nourish the world in a safe, responsible, and sustainable way. So wherever in the world we do business, this noble purpose is really at the back of everything that we do. It is the grounding factor for us, right? And we like to say that whatever we do has to be globally consistent but locally relevant. Right. So having said that, there are a few things that drive this. So we have a set of guiding principles that we live by. Right. There are a set of values that the organization has, and those are non-negotiable values. Putting your people first, doing the right thing, reaching higher. Those are core values that the organization lives by. Now, when we reach out, the reason I say this is because this is a question about communication. So the way we reach out to our stakeholders or work with our stakeholders are pretty much grounded on these core values as well. All right. So how do we put people first? So if you're putting a program on the ground, how do we make sure that the dollar that we put on the table is actually reaching that end beneficiary and is doing what it's supposed to do for the end beneficiary, right? And therefore, who are the important people that we need to manage? Who are the important people who we need to keep informed? Like a very typical project management stakeholder engagement model, right? That kind of approach. How do we, who do we keep informed? Who do we manage very, very closely? Who are going to be our partners? Who are going to be in the game with us? And then obviously, how do we do it smartly? And what are the long term, the short term, and the mid term of it? And what is the end goal of it? And then also what is the way that we keep it sustainable? We do not have to always be the ones who have to keep giving the fish to people. Like we say, you give the fish to somebody, you give him food for one day, but if you teach the person to fish, then you have given that person a skill for a lifetime, so that person can sustain themselves. So these are some of the core things that we live by. So when we are doing this kind of communication with our stakeholders, I think those values are something that we live by, and we are sort of reiterating them time and again. And then how does that come together? So for example, when you're working with partners, whether partners who are implementing programs for us, or NGOs, or people in the public sector, or other customers, we are looking at value creation together. And those conversations sometimes takes some more time than one would envisage, and we have given that time for it to germinate. Sometimes we have had delays in putting things on the ground because we wanted our stakeholders to come on board. And sometimes we've had to be okay with that. We said, okay, we will do it within a 6 months timeline. We could not do that because of a particular stakeholder still kind of gaining momentum with the course of what we're trying to do. But it's important that you go with the set of people that you are moving along with. Otherwise, and also the other thing that I have believed in, and I'm a project management person too, so I have always believed in front-end loading. If you know what that front-end loading means, that you bring your stakeholder on board right up front, as opposed to bringing them on board later on. Then a lot of the stuff that you might just, for example, go to a community and you have done stuff and you have not spoken to the local stakeholders, and they get to know about it at a particular time where they might just say that, oh, this is not something that we want, or this is not something that we have in mind. How come you just did it on your own? So that's why you do base like this. That's why you do needs assessment. That's why you do risk assessment when you put projects on the ground, and they go hand in hand with your investments, your business investment. How do they really align with your business plans as you're looking at making foray into your new community, or the work that you're doing in the existing community. And the other thing that has been very important, I think, and the evolution of the CSR and the sustainability practice area per se, and I think the other experts were there on the call today with me would agree today that now we have a seat on the table. It's very, very important that we are able to have that conversation even within our businesses, to say that what is happening in the outside world and how does that impact the business results or the business implications. And similarly, we take the business strategy back to the partners that we are working with, the stakeholders that we are working with, and say, okay, this is how our business goals or our business strategy aligns with what we're trying to do, so that there is a bridge building. And I think this is a huge role that practitioners like ourselves have to play in, a role of a catalyst, a role of a bridge building person, and sometimes also an activist to be able to drive those points home at different places. So I would say probably that this entire communication challenge obviously are this, where you have to keep translating those internally and externally, but then the role that we play, and I don't think you are any different, or Dr. Upadhyay is any different. We are trying to play the role of that catalyst to make that change happen, because ultimately we want to grow together. I mean, a corporate cannot grow alone. The community cannot grow alone. We're just trying to bring that. I know I sound a little utopian here if we just some very practical people might say this is good, but then that's actually this is how it works. I've seen that coming to life like that.
I totally agree with you. So when you mentioned that you have to be very cautious about selecting your stakeholders, and so what are the criterias for selecting an NGO or to partnering with another corporate for say one project? Do you all partner
Mm-hmm.
with the corporates also, and how do NGOs approach to you? What are your criterias out there?
So okay, um, at Cargill, like I said in the beginning, we have a noble purpose, which is we exist because we want to nourish the world in a safe, responsible, and sustainable way, right? So that's pretty much at the core of what we're trying to do. So we have created a little wheel around this. So there is safety we're talking about, there's responsibility we are talking about, and we are talking about sustainability, right? So when you're talking about safety, there are three tenets to it. For example, one of them is inclusion, equity, and diversity. And then we have people safety, which is the safety of our people of who work with us or people who are in our supply chain. And the third piece of safety is food safety, because we produce food, we produce food ingredients. So there is work around that piece that we are driving, right? And that speaks to the safety part of our purpose. The second piece of the wheel is responsibility, where we talk about food security and nutrition as one of the key tenets. Because again, we're a food and agri organization. So how do we advance school meal programs? How do we advance food system innovations? How do we do advocacy for food security and nutrition through working with partners or working with customers or working with policymakers to make that happen in countries where it is extremely important. The next one is around farmer prosperity or farmer livelihoods, as we call it. So farmers are a very important part of our entire ecosystem, entire value chain. So the work that we do around their livelihoods, improving their overall life, their families, how do we work with them, how do we improve their productivity, how do we help them set up enterprises, all of that really become a part of the conversation. So for example, globally we have called it out that we are going to be improving productivity for 150 million farmers by 2030. So that's a goal that we have. So everybody is working towards it, right? So this is a common narrative, for example, for us. The third one is around community development. So wherever Cargill is operating, we have our plants, we have our offices. How do we work with those communities to develop them basis the needs that exist in those? It could be education, it could be healthcare, it could be food, it could be gender equity, it could be any other equity and inclusion related issue that those geographies are facing. So how do we do that? And then the third one is sustainability, which is part of the purpose statement again. And under sustainability, we have called out land use as a big one. How do we work around effective land use? How do we do more mangrove plantation? How do we decrease deforestation in our supply chains? And then we have called out some tangible goals and what we want to do in that direction. The second one is around climate change. In terms of scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, how do we bring down the GHG emissions? And this is contextual to our geographies where we operate. It is we have a global goal, but then it is contextual to how we are operating in several geographies. For example, for India, we have a set of goals for businesses, and they all ladder up to how we are going to be talking about it globally. And the third one is a very important one again, which is around water resources. And we have targets for water. So all of this sort of come together for us to be able to realize our noble purpose, right? And again, the way it works is that we are not saying that every country has to do everything. It has to be relevant to the context of that country. So for example, when we talk about India, we are very invested in how we improve food security and nutrition. So it means that we are working very closely with organizations like an Akshay Patra Foundation or the India Food Banking Network to give food to school to school meals, or to do food system innovations with organizations like World Food Program, working through with various stakeholders. Farmer prosperity, for example, we have this huge initiative, and I'm sure you would have heard about it and read about it, in the public domain. It's called the Hatching Hope Initiative, where we're working with about 30,000 women poultry farmers in the state of Odisha currently to improve their lives and livelihoods through improving their nutrition as well as their productivity, as well as creating awareness around better poultry practices, and also helping them set up their own enterprises through working with farmer producer organization. And this is a partnership with this organization called Heifer International. So to your specific question of how do we select, some of it is organic, because some of the partners that we work with are global partners who have been part of our ecosystem for a really long time, and they have proven track record of working with us in several countries. So then we are able to bring that same knowledge into another geography where we have to activate it, as well as we work with local partners through conversations. We have a very strong due diligence process that we also follow, and we work with our local partners to be able to engage with them for very, very local, very hyper local initiatives that we have to do next to our plants or our facilities, etc. So yeah, that's pretty much how we go about it. And then we also have conversation with our customers on a regular basis to see, okay, how we could really partner with them in certain geographies to be able to come together for a particular program or a partnership. So it all happens, and some of it is like I said, organic, but some of it also takes some really long-term conversation to come to a conclusion that this is a good investment for us to look at, and there is a very imminent need on the ground as we're looking at a supply chain or a geography which is very, very crucial for us, and therefore and also something which is important for the country where we are operating in. So it all comes together and converges, and then we decide on making those investments.
Wonderful. My colleague, Dr. Upadhyay, also has a few questions. So would you?
Yes. Dipanwita, during these COVID times, things have changed a lot at home, especially with our beneficiaries and the communities. And domestic violence has increased to a great extent.
Right.
I read somewhere you have been working on that. So what are the initiatives you have taken during COVID?
So I'll tell you what, Dr. Upadhyay, thank you for that question. And that obviously this pandemic has been such a huge learning for all of us in so many different ways. We had to learn to be agile. We had to learn to rise up to occasion pretty fast, right? We had to learn to work as a global team and just respond to disaster in areas where it was kind of, and the things were changing on a daily basis for us to respond as well. So specifically, from a gender equity perspective, I think one of the things, and I would like to take an example of the Hatching Hope program that we have in Orissa. So, we say that we do corporate responsibility and sustainability programs in a big way to improve resilience of the people that we work with. And we saw that happening, right? So what happened? So what happens in, for example, in the Hatching Hope program is that we work with these women livestock farmers. So if you see, and they're backyard poultry farmers, right? So backyard poultry typically is not the mainstay of a household. I mean, they would obviously have other crops that they would they would involve in agriculture. The man of the house would do something, or all of that. So and when the reverse migration was happening, and these women had built strength with backyard poultry because they have been involved in the project now for some time, and then they were empowered to make decisions within the household. And that's what happens when you engage with women, right? When you give those tools in their hands. So one of the things that they were doing was they're not only feeding their own family with the earnings or the poultry product or the poultry that they had, they were also reaching out to families that were in distress.
Okay.
And we're able to help them. And this is the Mayurbhanj district that I'm talking about, where we work with the large number of these women farmers. So that was a huge story of resilience that came about for us. I mean, we also did a program to do 16 million meals across the country for our various beneficiaries that we work with, and we worked with organizations like Akshay Patra and the India Food Banking Network, for example, and also Feeding India to drive that. But specifically from a gender equity perspective, this is one of the aspects that we saw that was really, really powerful that came about. I cannot really speak to the domestic violence piece of it, Dr. Upadhyay, because that's not a specific area that we were really focusing on. We were rather focusing on building resilience for the women who were part of our ecosystem, and we saw the story of change actually really making a big difference. And in the communities where we were already operating or working, and they took a leadership role to go out there. Because we were, even our partners like Heifer International or people who were the partners on the ground, because of lockdown, they were not really able to have that human interaction with them.
Okay.
The interaction was happening with these women on the phone. But then, when the reverse migration was happening and these people were coming back home and they didn't have food on their plate, these women, they were able to share what they were doing.
Okay.
Right. And B, they were able to actually reach out and be a change agent because they had learned, right? So this kind of the game changed a little bit there. So I do have those very powerful human stories from Orissa of how women actually took that leadership role to not only feed their own families but also make an outreach, and because of that the outlook towards them changed.
Very nice.
Right. So I think that's what I have to offer specific to this. But if I have to speak of organization, we didn't. I wouldn't go away from saying that the women who work for Cargill or any other organization for that matter, everybody was facing a challenge because one was navigating home and one was navigating children and one was navigating the social construct of it. So we had to put programs even within the organization to be able to assist and support our women colleagues in a big way so that they are able to navigate through this change effectively and with ease and or with less discomfort. And that was also a learning for us through the road. So we did launch a lot of wellness programs for our colleagues. We have an emotional assistance program, for example. We have something called Inner Circle that we run within the organization where the women, and this is run by my Cargill Women's Network, and I'm very proud of the group of women that work with me for doing this globally and also in the country to actually create this safe space. And it is very, very important. And this is, I think, a learning that anywhere, be it in the community or be it within the organization, it is important that we create that safe space for people to come together and share, especially when one is going through so much, and everything is so unprecedented, and people do not have an outlet sometimes to speak. So to create a safe space for people to share and then also be able to find some solutions and strength from each other. So Inner Circle is a space where actually women in the organization at Cargill, we come together once in a month, have a conversation to say, what do we do differently? How do we support each other? And this is very candid conversation.
Sure.
And that really helps.
I'd like to know, like, say, as an organization, as Cargill, what are your CSR and sustainability initiatives? What's the roadmap for it?
The roadmap. Okay, so I think I alluded to it a little bit when I spoke about the safe, responsible, and sustainable part of it, right? So all of it is pretty much invested in this. So when we talk about the So specifically for, I'll probably just zoom into India now because this is relevant to the context of the country. So taking on from what I spoke about in terms of what is, what does safety mean to us, what responsibility mean to us, or what sustainability mean to us, we have built a concise kind of a model, which is our corporate responsibility strategy or narrative. So what do we say? We actually have said that what we do in India, we actually want to contribute towards improving the nutrition indicators of this country, because we are a food and ag organization. How do we do that? We look at the policies and the expectations of our country. We look at what is our business footprint in the country, what is our corporate responsibility footprint in the country, and then we look at what role does the UN Sustainability Development Goals play in that, and then we have created this entire game plan around it. So if we ask about the vision, our vision is to be a reliable, responsible, and sustainable agriculture conglomerate, supporting communities and collaborating with customers in India. So that's our big sort of like the big vision. And then how do we do that, or the mission part of it? Like I said, we want to contribute towards improving the nutrition.
Go to my car and get my clubs. Otherwise, we can't play.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's golf time for somebody, I guess. And then so far the goal is concerned, we are looking at a place where we are able to improve nutrition for 50 million people or individuals through our programs and partnerships by the year 2030, through improving the nutrition indicators. Now, who are our key stakeholders and connections here? Obviously, there is the policymaker, there are the NGO partners that we work with, there are our customers, and then we have our employees play a big role there. And we do that through advancing the Sustainable Development Goal 2. We really focus on the Sustainable Development Goal 2 by ensuring safe, nutritious, and sufficient food for people, as well as supporting small-scale farming households. That's how we plan to move ahead. And that's what all our programs and partnerships are aimed at. We have a few marquee programs in the country, and like I said, the Hatching Hope India initiative, which is a partnership with Heifer International to improve lives of poultry farmers, working through with women smallholder farmers, is one of the big marquee programs. We have a program with World Food Program and Center for Responsible Business as our partners for improving food security and nutrition as a pilot in the state of Rajasthan currently, which is underway. That's another big one that we have. And then we have a couple of them in the pipeline that are coming up. And apart from that, we have a lot of other local programs and partnerships that we run in the state of Maharashtra. We have a program running in the state of Karnataka with TechnoServe, which we called Sathi, where we work with 5,000 farmers, and a lot of them are corn farmers, to improve their livelihoods and income. And then we work with the women in the household, as well as youth in that community, to do a holistic development of the farming community and the farming households in that location. So those are some of the key sort of initiatives and programs.
Very nice.
Wonderful. Dipanwita, IICSR is a dedicated research, development, and training institution for responsible business leadership and CSR and sustainability. What kind of courses do you see that the coming manpower requirements would have, and your existing executives require to be trained upon? And what is the future of this space?
See, first, I'll probably answer the last question first. I think the future of this space is huge. I think this is the thing that everybody needs to watch out for. I want to congratulate all of you for thinking ahead and putting this in place. I think this is very, very timely, and we all need to be proactive about it. I mean, I'm very, very conscious of the fact that in our country too, the conversations that we are having across the industry, across the corporations, I mean, everybody is at a different place in the evolution curve and the growth trajectory as it relates to the sustainability practice area or the corporate responsibility practice area is evolving, and everybody's at a different place in that trajectory, right? I mean, if you look at the homegrown companies, they are at a different place. The multinationals look at it differently. The public sector has a different tenet to it. So I think there has to be a way that, like for example, the question you asked around the development of the course curriculum, all of that, I think it has to speak to all of the different sectors and how the growth trajectory is. I honestly have not really had a chance to go through the pieces. I know you have sent some material to me, but I have to admit I didn't have time to really go through it in detail. But I just do hope that there is a coverage of looking at it from all of those angles. There is, I think, one of the key areas, if I have to really call out what should a course curriculum in sustainability, obviously from the technical part of it, one is to obviously understand what is scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, how do you set water targets, for example, or how do you measure land use and deforestation related criteria, or what are the matrices you set for a food security or food system innovation, for example. And we are actually having a lot of those conversations internally as well to see how that makes sense, right? Because it has to directly also go to see what are the reporting organizations seeking from you when you are reporting, when you're doing impact reporting or when you're doing impact investing, right? How is that looked at? So it is not one size fits all, I would imagine. There has to be all of those lenses that one needs to apply. A shared value model, which is not a conversation that is happening a lot. And I say this with this consciousness that, again, that people are at a different place in the growth trajectory of the corporate responsibility journey or the sustainability journey in the country. Some people actually would end up saying that, we have 20 billion people still going to bed hungry every night. We have to first focus on that. We'll talk about sustainability later. I mean, those conversations also happen when we get together as practitioners, even in the industry, right? So I think there is a need to look at all of those grounding factors, what they are, and then develop a curriculum. And I think it is important that this conversation happens at colleges, at schools, and it becomes a part of the curriculum, not only at when one reaches a certain stage, but it becomes a part of a continuum. Like we studied social studies as kids, right? I don't know what this is called right now, but there is a progression of it. I mean, it was called that, but then to be socially aware, economically, what makes sense, and environmentally, what we should be doing. All of those. I mean, it's a very simple grounding principles, but they apply in such a huge way to what we do today. So I think one of the things that we need to really look at is, if we look at a corporate angle, one of the things that I sometimes struggle with typical practitioners or typical sustainability students when they have interned with me or whatsoever, is that they find it a little bit of a challenge to understand the business case of corporate responsibility, right? They understand that one has to look at it because there is an imminent need for a community development program, and all of that is fine, but one has to be really understanding the business case of corporate responsibility, and that's one of the asks probably from a lot of organizations. I don't know, I'm sure I'm not the first one who's talking about it. That understanding is going to go a long way, not only for practitioners who work in the corporations, but also practitioners who work in the NGO sector, because then there is always a friction that happens between in the understanding, and a lot of things we have to spend a lot of energy in translating what is the business case of corporate responsibility, what is the business case of sustainability. For the development sector, it is like, it has to be done because this is the need of the hour. and we would go and ask, okay, what is the business case for sustainability, or what is it? I mean, so I think that there has to be a balance, and I think we're in a very good place now because we have a seat on the table, like I was saying. Now we have a seat on the table, so we have the ability to bring that knowledge from the outside in, but then it has to still translate into a viable conversation that makes sense. What we do makes sense for the community, and we are not writing checks to just give out, and I think that gone are those days when corporate responsibility was just philanthropy. No, it's not anymore. We are talking about how do we create shared value, how do we create impact investing, and that's the future of sustainability and corporate responsibility moving forward, and it will all converge in that space. And I think all of us who have been doing this for a while now, we understand that is how it will move in the coming times. So how do we develop that thinking, that the design thinking, that how do we build that thing of how technology could play a big role? I mean, we have been having this conversation of the disruption that the digital world can bring into corporate responsibility work that we do, in terms of access to finance, in terms of helping beneficiaries on the ground get better access to information on stuff that they need, or create market linkages. How do we do that? How do we bring those conversations to the table so that it actually becomes meaningful for everybody, right? So I would actually say that those things need to be looped in. I think the connection needs to be seen by everyone. It is not like one size fits all again. And then also there will be subject matter experts for things, right? Like one is the ops, sales, all of that. I think sustainability will also evolve in a way where there will be expertise that will be required in particular areas. And we're seeing those needs emerging within our own organization as well as we move forward.
Wonderful. That's a lot of inputs for as a young company. There are a lot of things to be covered and a long way ahead. May I request if Dr. Upadhyay or Mr. Venkatrola, if you all have any questions?
I have one, two.
Yeah.
Hello, hi. This is Venkatrola here.
Hi, Mr. Venkatrola. Hi. Good evening.
Good evening. I have been in the CSR space from 2009 after moving out of marketing and business development for 30 years in corporate. And enjoyed it all around, both with the NGOs and with the large CSRs like the RPG Group. Today, I'm just consulting. I'm not really there on the ground practicing. One thing I have seen, continuing on the topic of communication that we got started this afternoon, is be it the days I was at it in the beginning, 2010, 12, 13, or be it now, the ignorance on the ground of all the government programs, beneficiary programs, CSR programs available for the poor, be it skill development, be it women empowerment, etc. So somewhere I find, while PMKVY and Kaushal Vikas Yojana, they have their ads, they do what they do. At a grassroots level on the ground, it takes you and me and all of us to keep that communication going on to the man on the ground.
Yes.
I play golf a lot these days. Any caddy who's carrying my bag, pushing my trolley and whatever, I've asked him, I said, you've done something? He says, yes, I've passed 11. I said, why have you not got yourself skilled? How long are you going to carry a bag and make an earning? But they're not aware of it. So that's in today's context, after Kaushal Vikas Yojana started 10 years ago. So what do you think you and I and all of us should do to really bring that traction at the ground? Because no scheme is worth it if it's not got communicated to the grassroots. That's one. The other one, I have engaged with an NGO from the US. I don't recall the name. When I was running the NGO at Bombay, They had a beautiful program wherein they brought interns from Iran and a whole lot of countries, 5 at a time. They connect with the NGO that they have scanned and found interesting programs done by them. And then the real work starts. These guys are normally from the journalism background or the likes. They get trained in cinematography, script writing, filmmaking, and the likes for just a week, 10 days with the Whistling Woods studios in Film City of Bombay. And then they are allowed to spend about 3 weeks with us, where we actually take them to the programs that we work on. They create a film, they create interviews, they create stories, they do everything on the ground. And that is put on, literally broadcasted to the world through the website and to various countries. Now, that's a very beautiful form that I have seen. I have never seen that again anywhere. So, talking about the good practices and showcasing it itself is a very big important thing for us to share.
Yes.
But broadcasting it this way is equally good. And the third thing, I'm sorry, I'm rushing through, is when we engaged NGOs to do something for the women empowerment part of it, running various skills and training programs for them. And we found this, especially in the tribal communities around Bombay, there were not many takers, or there were very disinterested participation. And the NGO could never tell us. They said, no, we've been working with this community for so long, but we don't know why they're not coming forward. Is when we stepped in and said, no, let's do some reality check. There's something not right. Maybe our programs are not well tuned for them. To our horror, we found there was a small piece that was the game changer. And you won't believe it. It is the chula. It is the cooking stove. Because they were all too busy collecting wood from the forest, cooking all day with low, slow, bad heat, and more so having congestion in their chest and exhaustion by the evening, and had no bandwidth. Because they would do farming, they would do house management, child management, cooking, and forest collection. And you know how men are in these communities. Less said the better. So once we gave them these eco chulas, which again use wood, but less than 50% of what they really need. Smoke emission is 70% less. Cooking is 50% faster. We saw a complete change in their attitude and their desire to learn something more, and the time they had and the bandwidth they had to come on board. So much so, one child who was born during that period was even named after our NGO's name. Omkar.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
They said, you really changed our lives. And it was nothing. It was just a 3,000, 4,000 rupee chula. That's it. And of course, we engaged with them to see that they didn't, pack it and keep it for the marriage of their daughter, but really used it day in and out. And realized they need one. No, they needed probably 2 or 3 of them, because they would keep one outside to keep their water boiling, to have hot water and whatever. But it was such a low cost, but very useful thing. So these were the learnings, and I'm sharing this more for one young lady like you going into the space in a much bigger way than I could ever do. And congratulations for that. So do you have anything on the communication part of it, where today's youth on the street, whatever he's doing, he's probably polishing shoes or cleaning the streets, still doesn't know about the opportunities CSRs and governments give them?
Yeah. So thank you. Those were very, very interesting insights, and such great congratulations for the Chula project, and also what you shared about the tribal community. Yes, and I want to just underscore a point here, that I think the work that we do as one single corporation, right? We have the ability to create a center of excellence, if I may put it that way, or a model of excellence. So in the communities where we are working, for example, we do one of our core, any program that we do, one of our core asks from our partners is to activate and help and support the community to get access to these government programs. Now, if you're doing a program with the farmers, is there a soil testing? These are very basic things, right? But or getting them a soil health card for that matter. See, it costs the farmer nothing, right? This is available to them from the government. But this is and I think what you are saying is just reiterating what I was sharing about the role of catalyst that we play, even as organizations, and we go to this kind of programs and or where we activate this kind of programs and manage this on the ground. So absolutely yes, and we have that in those smaller scale or in that particular geography. So for example, the work that I spoke about in terms of what we do with the farmers, the women farmers in Odisha, we have a program of digital learning there, the digital platform, which actually creates awareness around better poultry practices, where they're able to connect with experts, poultry experts, to get knowledge about how to do better feed or how to do better poultry management practices and so on and so forth. Or things like
Dipanwita, you're talking about the program and communication within the program, which is a target group. I'm talking of carpet bombing of the very knowledge available in the ecosystem for the masses on the ground. Maybe that's a program by itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's exactly what I'm alluding to, that as a corporation, today what we are doing is within those programs. Now, do we have something which is like a mass broadcast, which brings in several elements of it? The answer to that today is no. We are doing it in pockets, like I said, and that's what I alluded to, right? That the work that we do is and the investments that we are making are at this point in time limited to creating those centers and models of excellence that can be replicated elsewhere.
Can I share one model that we had created for this?
Sure.
Now that I'm not empowered to do that anymore because I moved out of the CSR sector, from a funding point of view, I only support and consult. We brought in TV9 and Jai Maharashtra TV. These are the two channels, and said, hey, you guys also need to do some part of CSR. And enthused them to say, we will do the entire program management. You just give us the time and your anchor to do it. They were so thrilled. We ran almost 9 episodes, wherein I brought in like-minded CSR practitioners like me onto the table to discuss about what are the available opportunities for various careers for a young student passing out of 10th.
Right.
Rather than just the beaten doctor, engineer, police. And then how those who don't want to study also, there's so many opportunities under various skill programs, etc., etc. Now, this was very well taken. We had so many callers coming in that Jai Maharashtra had to really stop and block those calls coming in, because they said our entire lines are getting jammed because people are calling. Because it really caught on. By the time it was the 3rd or 4th episode, the word went around and it became a big success. So some of these things are actually low-hanging fruit, not very costly, but just takes a little imagination and buy-ins from the mass operators like the TV channels and the radios to say, hey, why don't you also do your bit? You don't have to charge me the full rate. Give me 50% discount. We'll come by and do it for you.
Yeah, that sounds very exciting. Yeah, maybe we could just take that offline and have a conversation with you to see what are some of the tenets, how do you do that, etc. So yeah, that sounds really, really wonderful.
I always feel some of these things I have not been able to continue much more than I would have loved to, because I've now moved to Bangalore. I'm away from the Bombay space. So all my packages are lying over there, done, not done, half done, but someone has to continue it. So it's a baton relay. I'm passing it on to you.
But then, you know what? I think one of the learnings that we've had during the COVID times is to really leverage the virtual space to still do what we need to do. I mean, yeah, I was used to living out of my suitcase 15 days a month. And I have been working with my team, with my partners across all of the markets in Asia. and in headquarters in Minneapolis, where CARGILL is headquartered, and we have seen the power of the virtual space. Yes, so I'm sure there's something there. So I mean, yeah. But then, like I said, I'm very happy to have a conversation with you and anybody else that you'd like to bring in to see what that really entails, and you know, whatever we could do to take the conversation forward. I'm very supportive of that.
And if you need the chula by Terry, so that
I think I've heard about that. I think I've heard about it.
That would be a great thing.
Yeah, I've heard about the chula project for sure.
Cholo, nice talking to you. I need to step out now for a game of golf. I'm already behind schedule, so I'll take your leave.
Okay. Sure. Thank you. Nice talking. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Harsha. I think Harsha is not around. Harsha, see you. Bye-bye. Okay.
Dr. Upadhyay, you are on mute.
Sorry. Dipanwita, your message to our viewers.
Haven't I said enough? I've been talking a lot already. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. I just want to say that I think, you know, being a practitioner of corporate responsibility, I just want to say that it takes a lot of drive and passion to do this. First of all, it does. So anybody who's aspiring to do this needs to see it from that lens. And I'm speaking to people who, right now. I'm just, you know, my this message is a little targeted to people who would like to pursue this probably in the future as a career. So it does take that drive and that passion to do that, and you either have it or you don't. I think you get inspired also along the way, but it's important to realize and recognize. And then the other piece of it is that I think all of us in our space have the ability to make that little change of how we are living our lives today, right?
Sure.
Can we do a little bit of that composting just in the backyard of our house or in the balcony where we live with the homegrown waste, right? Sure. That will contribute in a big way to making the planet a better place. We do not need to do earth-shattering things every day. I think there is an ability in each one of us to make that difference. Like, you know, instead of using the plastic at home, can we switch to something better? Can we just watch out for the house help, the domestic help who works at our homes, to see, okay, what's happening to his or her kids? Do we have the ability to support? I think those are those little tenets, and I think a lot of us are doing a great job of it, and we do not get those stories or anything out. But I think we keep doing those kind of things in that space. I'm just talking about a slightly micro level now. That makes a world of difference, because it will take all of those micro things to save that little water, or not let the plastic get into the ocean, right? Or you know, creating that ecosystem where there is that you're using household waste to create manure, where you do not, and you can probably grow some little vegetables in your own yard. And then I just want to allude to the sustainable consumption, sustainable production. I think as all of us are consumers, and some of us are who work in the corporate world and have the responsibility to produce responsibly, are producers, right? So even as consumers, let's try and read the label of the products we use, right? It doesn't take much when you're, you know, going to the supermarket or whatsoever. Let's read the label of what it consists of and what it means for our health and our family's health. So those little things that we can all do to make those little difference. And as practitioners, like I said, I think all of us have a great future, because sustainability is not the buzzword of today. It's the buzzword for times to come. and it is here to stay. And congratulations to you and the team, which is putting together such a great plan. And any way we can support, we are very happy to do that. And kudos.
Great. Thanks a lot, Dipanwita.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank
to
you
have
so
you
much
on the show. Let's meet next time.
Yes. Thank you very much, and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the weekend. Yes.